Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here, surrounded by so many sports legends.
Wow, this is fantastic to see everybody here celebrating.
I want to express how pleased we are
to kick off the opening
of the Sports Museum.
The Sports Museum of America.
We're back at the Sports Museum of America, and I'm with the museum's founder and CEO, Philip Schwalb. Philip, let me ask you, we see museums for fine arts and performing arts, but why a museum for sports?
Well, we'd argue, and I think America would argue, that sports are as transcendent and popular a part of our culture as anything. And we have great respect for museums of art and science and aviation and technology, but to think that there's never been a museum that celebrates the beauty and the grace and the grandeur and the work and the stories behind great athletes it was just hard to believe, frankly. So we feel that sports is every bit deserving of a grand national museum.
You spoke about national events. Well, the events of 9/11 had a lot to do with the birth of this museum, right?
I wanted to do two things, really. One, I had been to visit some sports Hall of Fames. I realized very few people get to them. Less than 5% of sports fans ever make it to a sports Hall of Fame. And also had realized that those sports Hall of Fames are by single sport. So there's a basketball hall that I had visited, a football hall, a hockey hall, but they're in different places. I wanted some place that celebrated all of sports. And secondly, I was very driven after 9/11 to try to help create something that would have an impact on Lower Manhattan.
In fact, one of your goals is really to be involved in the revitalization of downtown, right?
We wouldn't exist if we were not closely allied to both the state and the governor, the city and the mayor. They provided almost 2/3 of the $100 million it took to build the museum, and we had to prove the case against 300 or 400 other projects that we were one of about a dozen that were chosen for Liberty bonds, and those were special tax-exempt bonds to help build things here in Lower Manhattan after 9/11.
And there's something very special about the museum. That's all the interactivity here. That's a part of the plan, right?
Well, we felt like in 2008 you had to build a museum that was going to be a lot of fun and very active, especially for children and for adults. We were just named by Nickelodeon the best museum in Manhattan, actually, for teens and for big kids, ahead of some of our peers like Museum of Natural History. It's critical in sort of the new millennium that a museum not just be about things behind glass. We find that the kids will immediately run to the interactives, whether they're computer interactives or touchables, where kids can touch Wayne Gretzky's game-used hockey stick or Alex Rodriguez's bat. They can feel those things, and so it's very important today in a museum, and this is not just in a museum of sports, this is in any modern museum, that it be interactive and accessible and there be a lot to touch and see in terms of films and technology.
You know, every sports fan who comes through here is going to say one thing to themselves: how did you get all this stuff?
Well, the way we did it, which I think is really nice, is we didn't want to preempt all the great sports museums out there. Over 60 organizations, every single sports Hall of Fame in the country we have worked with to get the items, and most governing bodies from the USTA to USGA to the US Olympic Committee. So they have provided most of the artifacts, but we've also gone to athletes and their families. We have an exhibit about athletes as children, and in that case we wanted things from Derek Jeter's childhood, and it was Derek Jeter's mom who provided his Little League jersey, or Jason Kidd's folks who provided his warm-up jersey from 3rd grade. So it's athletes, it's their families, and it's these other bodies that are our partners together.
Now, there are so many exhibits here. Do you have any personal favorites?
There are two that I think are two of our most important exhibits, and they're very special to me. One is called Dreaming Big, and it's the first exhibit you see, and it takes very famous athletes like Tiger Woods or Venus Williams, Magic Johnson. It shows them when they were children in video, by way of artifacts from their childhood and photos from their childhood, and I think it gives kids a real sense of empowerment and a sense that they may be able to be a great star one day, and I love that Dreaming Big exhibit. The other is called Barrier Breakers. It's I think, especially important, socially relevant exhibit which talks about the athletes who broke gender barriers, racial barriers, ethnic barriers. And as you know, today's sports has become so globalized and so integrated. Major League Baseball is about 30% players from overseas, from Japan and Korea and the Dominican Republic, and it didn't used to be that way, and so that room I love. It's a salute to all the people who changed the face of sport.
Now, one of the coolest rooms here is the Billie Jean King Women's Sports Hall of Fame room.
Well, it's also a really important social piece of the museum. Its function is that it is literally the first Hall of Fame ever for women in sports. And we built it in conjunction with Billie Jean King and her Women's Sports Foundation. It's the place where every year women athletes are being inducted now into the Women's Sports Hall of Fame. And it's a really, really vital part of the museum in terms of teaching girls what they can become as athletes. It's interesting because it sits alongside the Heisman Trophy Gallery, which is our other sort of unique wing. The Heisman Trophy lost its home, the Downtown Athletic Club, after 9/11. And after much discussion over a few years, we became the home to the Heisman Trophy. And as Richard Lapchick, who's a noted authority on sports and society, said, any place you can have Billie Jean King and the Women's Sports Foundation working with the tough guys from the Heisman Trophy, you know you've got a museum that is really embodying all athletes and all sports.
Now, we were just in the Heisman room. I'm wondering how many people come by and touch it or want to make that classic pose?
Pretty much everyone. They do the pose, and I think it's really neat when they touch it. I watch kids touch it and they light up. The one thing they can't do is if they lift it, all kinds of bells and alarms go off, so we discourage that. But it's a important and meaningful trophy and part of sports folklore, and I think the fact that it's not behind glass but that you can touch the original trophy is really neat.
Some people say meaningful and important. That doesn't really apply to a sports hero. Tell me about your sports heroes and why you think that isn't true.
Well, I think people that would say that sports are not meaningful or important or significant in society just don't understand the impact and the importance, the power of sport. Some of the athletes that come to mind for me who've had an impact on this building, Martina Navratilova, who's a very, very bright woman and who spoke very eloquently at our opening about the importance of building one central place, and where better than New York City to celebrate all of sport. And this is the thought that a lot of athletes have expressed to us when they visit, is that, wow, I've dedicated my entire life to the art of sport. And there are museums celebrating the art of painting or aviation or science. And these 50 Hall of Fame athletes that are on our board and others that visit are all saying, wow, isn't it great that there's finally a place that celebrates what I dedicated my life to? And it's incredibly fulfilling to see them. Here we are in the Olympic room. I've watched Jim Craig, goalie for the Miracle on Ice, as he looked at the case and the film showing us beating the Russians, and to watch Jim Craig watch that, or to watch Carl Lewis over here in the Olympic room looking at icons and items from the Olympics, it's very heartwarming, and I think it really makes the case that sports have an important place in society.
Philip, thank you so much for joining us on Sunday Arts.
Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.